All right, we're recording. If you could introduce yourself and just kind of tell us a little bit about what life's like right now.
Okay, well, my name is Sahara Milam, and life's kind of crazy. We live in Colorado, so it's pretty metro. We get to see a lot of people, see a lot of different lives that are being affected, but also not really. I feel as though 2020 has had things both affect us and completely not. Like my life is no different now than it was in January,
Hmm.
despite wearing a mask every day. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's been not a good year for the world, but it's been a good year for me personally, for
That's
sure.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some people are saying that, and it's like most of us are a little tentative saying that. I know it's just like right now I feel pretty good about where I am.
Yeah.
Whereas like in the beginning of the pandemic, I was not really okay. But like things are going really, really well. And I feel guilty saying that because I know for some people that's not the story.
Yeah. And I know there's guilt that comes with being, I guess, a survivor or, unaffected, but
Hmm.
I think that guilt is more empathy for them because there is absolutely nothing we could do besides wear a mask, wash our hands,
Hmm.
that would make their lives better. And is feeling bad about them good for us? Is
Hmm.
that like they wouldn't know whether we're feeling bad or good regardless? So maybe we should just kind of focus on feeling all right for ourselves?
Yeah. And I can dig that. Like, I mean, that's one of the big lessons I've gotten during this time is, I mean, my first inclination is always to give and often to the bottom of my well. And so I actually have consulted some folks, like a therapist and some, witch doctors or whatever, and they're like, give from your cup first. Like, no, they're like, fill your cup first and you give
Yes.
from the adhesion and cohesion at the top,
Yeah.
that stuff that's kind of like sticking there. That's you're not supposed to tip your cup kind of thing. And
Yeah.
that's definitely new thinking for me, like
Mhm.
because of like how I've grown up and stuff. And I have a feeling it might be the same for you a little bit too. Yeah.
Yeah. Self-care has been such a difficult thing. Like I too, I've been going to therapy since like June-ish.
Hmm.
And honestly, because it's over the phone, I can't say that it's the best. Like I really do feel like it's been a little difficult for sure, but yeah, the lesson that you need to like come with yourself first and then help others is it's very hard to really adjust to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which is
especially yeah, like
which is
today.
which is weird. It's like I feel like so we know each other from Starbucks, and even
Mhm.
Starbucks is a little bit that way. It's like in a lot of ways we let folks run all over us,
Yeah,
to like to get them what they want. And
yeah,
it's kind of the same message I know I've been receiving since youth, like you're supposed to everything you have is somebody else's first. Which is a little backwards because if you're not feeding yourself, how can you have energy to feed someone else?
yeah.
That's an interesting concept. I wish I would have gotten sooner.
Well, like I guess I don't want to bring gender politics into this, but
Right.
especially as a woman, like
Hmm.
you have this like role to fill with certain people and you're supposed to
Yeah.
like give certain things to people and you're not supposed to expect anything back.
Right.
And like it's exhausting to go day to day and think that like I owe you this, let me give you myself and you give me nothing in return. I'll just sit here and I'll be happy that you're happy you
Right.
know
I think of that like Bruno Mars song that I heard like almost every day I worked at
Oh
Starbucks.
my God. Yeah,
You know which one I'm talking about? Like,
I think.
I'll catch a grenade for you.
Oh
I'll
my God. Yes.
run in front of a train for you,
He
or all
says,
that.
I'll put my head on a pike, and that stuck with me for the
Yeah,
longest time.
but you won't do the same. And I'm like, look, that kind of love is not sustainable, like
That is
how many
unhealthy. Get out of there. Yeah.
this is like Rick Astley level of lies, like maybe beyond. Like
Oh my God. Yeah,
this
Bruno
isn't
Mars,
real.
for sure. I think all of his songs, they're so, I would do anything for you, but then would you? And also, is that healthy? Like, is that
Yeah,
healthy?
you're gonna be dead. I mean, what? what is that going to do for anybody? You're
Yeah.
blood on the street, man. Why?
Like, oh my goodness, exactly. Yeah, it's just not a good mindset for sure. Yeah, we just, I think we just live in a society of givers and takers, you know, and you
Yeah.
get to choose what you get to be. And I think if you kind of choose to be the middle ground, a lot of people will like rag on you, but at the same
Mhm.
time, that's the healthiest place you can be.
I think so too. I'm really enjoying, like, one of the things I'm enjoying a lot during this time of the pandemic is the promulgation of the idea of mutual aid.
Ooh.
And it's like there are a lot of us, for us it's always been there. So like I always joke, some of us joke that us creative types were always passing around the same 20 spot back and forth ad
Mm-hmm.
infinitum, you know,
Yeah.
like, oh, hey, I got you. And then next week I'm broke. They got me, you know, here's 15 bucks. And we're always supporting each other's stuff and whatnot. And I think people are waking up to the fact, like, it's kind of like gardening culture. Like if you start gardening, people just start bringing you stuff. and
Oh,
then and then you'll have extra. Like I'm about to have a bunch of zucchinis, so like I'm gonna have to find people to give them to, um because they're
zucchini bread,
huge.
baby. Oh my goodness.
There's only so much zucchini bread, you know what
Yeah,
I'm
that's
saying?
fair.
Like,
Yeah.
so like but it's like, it's just this idea of mutual aid is like, I have some extra, like the coffee mark out at Starbucks. We get a coffee mark out every single week. Most of us do not drink that much coffee outside of work, you know, because we're drinking coffee. I'm talking like I still work there, but like,
No, it's fine.
um,
Like it's excessive. I get it. Yeah.
yeah, like, so 4 whole pounds of coffee every month. And so like, that's like, you know,
That's
Christmas
so much.
presents, or like, you
Yeah.
know, it's like, oh, I have some coffee for you. And like, it's kind of a cool thing that you can help kind of expand
Yeah.
a presence of wealth.
And whatever wealth you have, you give it to others and it becomes
Yeah.
like a thing. Yeah. No, I mean, communities like your gardening community, it's so important, you know, especially
Mhm.
like in the modern world. I feel like it's really difficult to have communities like that because everyone's just on the internet, blah, blah, blah. But I
Yeah.
guess you can also see the internet as its own sort of community, like how many communities are on the internet. So, like, I don't know, no matter what is going to be happening in the world, we're going to be having groups of people we can still connect with. And
Right.
yeah, that's so cool. But
But
yeah,
I know in a lot of ways it saved my life. Like there are a lot of
yeah,
creative folks that like I wouldn't have known about, let alone been able to have like come into contact with and sometimes even work with and
yeah,
become friends with. Like a lot of people rag on the internet a lot and about all the things that it's taking away or changing. Yes, and I'm always like, yes, and
yeah,
there are a lot of us who are like, you know, our
yeah.
handshake when we're opening the door to a social function, you know, like I don't know if I
Yes.
could do this, but like I can send you a message on the internet and say, whoa, I really dig your work and these are the things I like about it. And then all of a sudden we're in conversation. And
Yeah.
like that has bridged a lot of gaps for me. And also being able to just like share things I'm excited about, you know, or like find communities that are outside of my community. Like say, I know you probably experience this with gaming a lot, or like just about anything we're fucking interested in. We can just like be like, whoa, there are other people who dig this, you
Yeah.
know?
Like literally, if you have a favorite character on a show, you like go on Tumblr, go on Facebook, whatever, you look up that character and there's millions of just art for it. And it's like the connection that we find, you know, it's enough. Just because it's not physical doesn't mean it's not there.
Right,
I think it's super important that we like hold value into these things instead of
right,
just if it's here, then it's real. And it's like,
right.
that's not it. Yeah. Because we live in such a modern world. And honestly, especially in America, we live in a very capitalist world where most people go to work every day. They can work 8 hours, they go home and they're exhausted. So they don't have
Mhm.
time to do things. And it's so important to be able to connect to people without it being inside of your work. And like, you know, because if you're out at work, you don't have time to go out to the club or go out and be social because you're exhausted.
Right,
But with the internet, you can just type a few words and you're still getting that connection. You're still, you know, feeling. that
Yeah.
empathy. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear that, because yeah, like, I mean, I think sometimes it is for the cheap hit, like, oh, like I have a post that has like 352 likes on it right now.
Oh
I'm
my
like,
goodness.
woo!
You're famous.
That makes me feel pretty good. But at the same time, it's just like, a little dopamine hit. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Like, what does it mean to build community online?
Yeah.
Like, we got our dopamine hits, now what?
Yeah. I think that there's definitely a reward system in place because of how these social
Hmm.
media sites are like constructed. Like
Hmm.
I mean, I don't think it's the modern person's fault to be, like that. Like it feels good to be recognized and famous because that's kind of what you are. Like, I don't know, I guess it's like in ancient Greece when you would like stand on a platform and start speaking and everyone would come to you. Like how big of a crowd you have is how big of a crowd you have just on the
Well,
internet.
and it also depends on what, trolls in Rome. There were trolls in Rome,
There
and they
were
had tomatoes and rotten fruit, and
a
rotten
lot
vegetables.
of them were actually the philosophers. Like Diogenes, he was a monster. He would just masturbate in the street and it was
Oh,
fine. It
oh
was
my God. I forgot about
Yeah,
that.
he was insane, dude. Or Socrates, he was a fucking asshole. He'd just go to everyone and be like, why? Like, can you imagine just having a grown man coming up to you and asking you why you think blue is a pretty color? I'd be
Yeah.
like, I don't know, man. Fuck you. Leave
Yeah.
me alone. Yeah, but he's like one of history's most famous people. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
I
I think
know. Now we would just get arrested,
yeah,
probably.
he sure would. Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
sure there's a way to do it. It's so bad because my brain, I'm like, my wheels are spinning. I'm like, I bet Grace Jones could do it. Like, what if I channeled that? Like,
Yeah.
anyway, whoa, my brain actually just went there. Next social media campaign.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm not really on like too many social medias
Yeah.
at any time. Not because I try to avoid it. I just think that there's an interesting group within our, I guess, generation, but I mean,
Yeah.
generation isn't anyone who uses the internet. And those are people who are shy of the internet, if that makes
Yes.
sense. Yeah.
Yes.
Like I'm low key petrified to post a picture of myself, not because I'm like afraid of scorn, but it's just this anxiety that's like
Yeah.
invisible in there.
Right.
Yeah. And like the fact that we have people who are prominent, it makes the internet more not accessible necessarily, but interesting. And like I guess you have like the posters and the consumers, and I
Yeah.
kind of wonder if more people sit in the consumer part because at least I know I do
Yeah.
for sure.
There are a lot of lurkers. It used to make me super uncomfortable. It still kind of does, because so like Facebook in 2009, I think that's when I got on, and I
Mhm.
was a very reluctant um Facebooker. And some of my friends were like, hey, this is a way we can get in touch and stuff. Because before that, it was like classmates.com, and you had to pay a fee or something to access certain things. Classmates.com is real junky. And then Facebook came along. I'm like, no, no, I don't know about that. I'm not really interested. Then I got on it. Look at me now. I'm on there all the time.
Yeah,
But and it was a way to like, it's like, whoa, cool. Like I can actually check in on folks I went to high school with and whatnot, and like keep in touch somewhat with family members and share things I'm seeing or experiencing, and all of those things. And of course, now it's like it has gotten weird because it is a commodity. Like I've been doing some reading about how our brain space has become commodified. Sorry, my hair is in my face. And so like this stuff up here is very valuable to marketers and advertisers and a lot of other people who are data mining our social media for maybe nefarious means or whatever agendas and plans that they have that we do not know.
yeah,
And it is scary, like uh you know facial, like so many things we could go on and on and on about it. And so it's like, and it happened so fast. So like 2009, it was kind of soft.
uh,
Um, and now it's just everything is moving so quickly and ticks down the feed, and like it's like people expect it, you know, they expect you to put something out there to consume. So like for me, I get emails and stuff all the time of like, I really enjoy these posts that you're doing, or I really, these things really inspire me and stuff. And so these are folks who are like watching and stuff, and it's really cool, you know, dopamine hits. And also, it makes me feel like I'm doing something right. But I mean, I could be totally about some other thing and I would still have an audience, you know? So who's
That
to
is
ever
true.
say if whatever I'm about is actually, you know?
Yeah. I think what we have to remember, I guess, is that we have our own communities for a reason. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're reaching out to people who you personally connect with. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
think there ever really is a right versus wrong, group. It's just
Right.
like I don't want to say politics necessarily, but like Democrats and Republicans, like
Yeah.
certain people are drawn to certain parties because of their circumstance and their
Yeah.
world experiences, not because they truly believe in whatever their party is spouting, but because blue is what's popular in my state, or blue will defend this specific right that I want. Because trying to encompass everything that they're doing, you couldn't do it. You couldn't say I am for every single thing that my party is doing,
Right.
And like I just think it's important to find solace in the community you have built. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong because it's your community.
Yeah.
Not saying you should be a pedophile or anything
Oh
like
God.
that, but it's important to find connection wherever you can, especially in this life. We don't live very long, so to be able to connect to people, it's incredible, really.
Yeah, and those are two reasons why I wanted to talk with you, because you do like, even I mean like even just on the floor at Starbucks, you like ask like these very deep questions, and I'm like, wait, what? What did you just ask me? Like my whole world just went, whoa. You know, and just like also like the idea of communities. So that's something that I've been coming to terms with too, because I've spent a lot of time in my life running away from communities that I felt were not healthy for me.
Yeah.
And that I feel that that's a product of our society. It teaches us that this idea of not just meritocracy, but also individualism. And I think those things together is an absolute lie. It's absolute bunk, because we do need our communities. And if we're always running away from communities that are quote unquote toxic for us, I mean, sometimes this is really real.
Yeah.
Sometimes this is really real, and we don't have the tools and may never have the tools to be able to live in those communities.
Mhm.
Um, but like how it's so complicated. It's like too complicated to say and just like this little rambling brain thing that's happening right now. But like
Love it.
I've been thinking about it a lot. It's like this kind of talk is definitely, it comes from a mindset of privilege, because you know, the more money you have, the more you can just build a structure around you and just
Yeah.
hire whatever and weed out whatever and have whatever. And but if you grew up, say, in a working class trailer park where there's a lot of drug problems, like this is me, like a lot of drug problems and a lot of anger issues and a lot of you know, you can't see
Yes.
beyond a certain point, you know, like this is your community too, you know. And it's just like, I don't know,
No, yeah.
my brain just got a little scrambled, but
No, I completely get it. Like, I've had a very similar childhood, projects, drugs, all of it, and anger issues. I've really
Mhm.
come to terms with anger issues. It is weird.
Oh yeah.
But, like, those communities, I think it's like just because you come from a place doesn't mean you have to A, stick there or be really,
Right.
if you find yourself not connecting with it anymore, I think that's okay. Like, it's okay that you've moved on, you've grown up, and you've kind of become more privileged, I guess. You've gotten more money, you've become more of a person, instead of just like, I don't want to say like a statistic, but when you're kind of in that situation, it's really hard to find who you are because you're just working to pay your next bill.
Right.
And when you're like so close to the line like that, you don't really have time to do things that are
Mhm.
fun and engaging to you. And being able to find who you are, being able to pursue a creative path, especially, it's so beautiful and unique and very
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
I feel very lucky. In a lot of ways, I I feel very lucky. I mean, I'm super stubborn. I'm like, I'm gonna do what I want. And then the
As
other
you
part is
should. Yeah.
the other part is I feel like, you know, there's a certain amount of acceptance and I can't think of the words that I want. Especially with my mom, like, yeah, I understand you're like having your own life and stuff. With that, like I am a different person in a lot of ways because I'm able to see um what was possible at the time, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And you're talking about like I call it survival mode. Like when you're in survival mode, you can do what you can do and you can see what you can see.
Mhm.
And it's very difficult for anything else to come in because you're all of your energy is taken up and like this is what I can do. And these are some small joys I can have, you know. And sometimes maybe they're not wise decisions or whatever, you know, from a privileged point of view, um and like all of those things are very hard. Like now I'm coming to terms with the fact like, well, like how can I give back like with this new understanding, because some things maybe weren't as bad as I thought they were, and uh I don't know, like I'm just always I'm in this constant state of like reconciliation
Yeah.
of and also trying to broaden my understanding. I think is the other important part, is just like what are the factors that contributed to these situations.
Mhm.
And a lot of it was you know, capitalism.
I'm
For
very
example,
anti-capitalism, to say the least.
yeah, it's like it's and I think me too. And it's just like how do we live real. So here's something that happens too, something you'll notice. So like folks who are working class, poor, etc., people rely on each other more. And like I think that's more of a natural state of being. And then often when we have more money and more privilege and more education, etc., on and on, we become kind of cloistered. And a lot of times our relationships become more superficial and more, you know, maybe we don't need each other as much. And so like a term I've heard a lot, even growing up, is this idea of crabs in the bucket. And this is really, really real. It's like,
Mhm.
you know, like the crab's trying to get over the edge and almost about to get out, and there's a bunch of other crabs grabbing onto the crab leg, and either that crab leg's not going to get out of the bucket or is going to lose a leg. um, and it's like
Yeah.
it's real deep, right, and
Yeah.
very tragic, because like that one crab can't carry all the other crabs in the bucket. And so there's some decisions that probably need to be made and whatever. But
Yeah.
like what was I saying, it's just like if you notice, like you can even see it on riding on the buses, like the 15L through the city that cuts through a huge intersection of people of all different classes and all different races. Everybody's on that bus. And then if you take like say the 28 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, it looks absolutely different, and people don't talk to each other. They're mad if you're accidentally touching them, and they're all amateurs.
Amateurs. Yes.
um and like so often on like say the 15L, there are actual like real human connections happening across
Like a
like
city.
kind of yeah, across the city and across economical boundaries, you know.
Yeah.
um and so that's something I think about a lot, because I know I've always craved like that actual connection and community and stuff like that. Like
Yes.
the superficial stuff doesn't work for me.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm just, I don't know if I'm like, I have an ask there, but I am wondering what you think about that.
I think it's very spot on. Like, I love taking the 15L. It's so colorful, and sometimes you get some angry people, which is never fun. But
Hmm.
besides that, like I, the crab in the bucket thing, you do lose a leg. I recently moved out of my mom's house,
Yeah.
which was not the best situation. But now that I'm on my own, I can really see like who I am, and I'm kind of coming to terms with it more
Yeah.
because when you leave behind I'm not saying I left behind my family. Like I still talk to them and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
But when you leave behind a shitty situation, you really do realize that maybe the leg you did lose was a good thing because, you know, you're so terrible with them sometimes. Like you
Yeah.
kind of indulge in the awfulness that surrounds you because if
Yeah.
they're awful, I can do it. But when you're on your own, you have to really face the fact that, you know, you're independent, you're relying on yourself to do very specific things. And um, yeah, I feel like, I guess the richer you are, the less you come to depend on people. And maybe while that is a shortcoming in the community side of things, I think it's also a strong suit in the independent self because when you're independent, you can really live the life you've always wanted.
Hmm.
And being independent's not easy for sure, but it's also
Ooh. Yeah.
it's also way more rewarding, you know, because you get to do the things that you want to do, unconstrained by rules or, you know, anger is really the big thing. Being
Yeah.
able to not be angry at the world you live in is huge
Right.
because so many poor people are just angry that the system has done it as they should be. They should be
Yeah.
angry, but that anger doesn't help them in the end, you know? And it's so sad to see that people aren't, you know, happy, of course, but it's more sad to see that people are forced to live in these situations without being able to do anything. Like their
Right.
anger, in the end, it means nothing because the system that we live in will continue to tamper you down.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe losing the leg is like losing a part of yourself for sure. Like you lost that connection with your family, but you also lost the bad habits that made you stay with them in the first place.
Yeah.
Because there's always a point where not you can say you can get out, because honestly, that point is so far and few in between. I don't think it really exists. But there is a point where you can say, I can yell at my kids today, or I can punch a desk for a couple seconds and move on, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Or
When you
dance or
something
scream.
scream
Like,
into a pillow. Yeah, you just people who are mean to kids need to die, okay? Kids are perfect and beautiful. Stop it. But it's more just like, you know, when you're in this environment of anger and sadness and toxicity, you become that. And to be able to move on and really grow from that
yeah.
shows your
Yeah.
strength. Yeah.
Well, and here's something that happens too, and so for some of us it takes longer than others. Some people don't get it, but for me,
Mm-hmm.
so I've lived in Denver 20 years. I knew I had to get out of the situation I was in. And I was like irascible. I was like very hot tempered, like just like anything would happen and I'd like be screaming, you know. I have one good friend from who knew me way back when I was in my 20s and stuff, and she was like, yeah, I just remember you would just get really upset.
Oh my
Like
gosh.
sometimes people were like, please don't cause a scene, you know, that kind of stuff. And it wasn't like I would put up my dukes or anything. It was just like I would be screaming like, you know, this is messed up, whatever. And so finally I just stopped going out because apparently I couldn't act right. 20 years later, you know, especially in talking about like family and stuff and even communities. So like I'm in a space now I never thought I would be here. And I never really thought I held grudges, but it's pretty apparent that I have. And so like lately I'm just like, you know, those things were really shitty that happened, like with old boyfriends or lovers or um or like, you know, family members or whatever. And there's some really hard things that aren't ever going to be reconciled in certain ways.
Yeah.
And just coming to the terms with the fact that we all get to be whole people and hopefully healed and whole people.
Yes.
And you know, for everyone there's some degree of growth. And I do believe in the full realm of we've talked about this before, like I believe in the full realm of human experience. I think it's very important. I know that's tricky to say when you're talking about like you know, what about if someone kills somebody, blah blah blah. You know, people
Yeah.
always take it to the extreme, but it's like in my life I've just been finding that it feels better to be like, oh, you know what, I can let that go. It's like those things happened and they sucked and I'm never going to get an apology or whatever,
Yeah.
but like I can't hold on to it anymore. And it's not because I'm better or anything, because I've done my fair share of crappy things,
Sure.
um you know, pretty terrible or whatever. We all get to be a monster in somebody's life, um but like we all get to be whole people too. And just like seeing like how people grow, and like um sometimes even if you become privy to kind of that wider understanding of like, these are the reasons why these things happened, and okay, I get it now, like those were the circumstances, and probably they couldn't have made better decisions, right?
Yeah.
Or probably there wasn't some kind of site that I really wish was there, and it was unfair of me this whole time to impose that on them, but I didn't even know, right?
Yeah.
And so those things have been happening, and I'm just like, wow, you know, like I want a relationship with these people.
Hmm.
And sometimes with certain boundaries and stuff, but like it's just like I think I get it now. And I also see who I was in this situation, etc., you know. And so
Yeah.
sometimes those things happen. And then of course there are some people that it's just like absolutely no fucking way. Like it's still toxic, it's still bad,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. It's still something I don't know if I can forgive, you know,
Yeah.
necessarily. And so those are, I don't know, it's just there are a lot of things I think that come with time.
Mhm.
So I mean, yeah, when I left I was like, I need to get the fuck out of here. I'm done with this. I need to have a lot of distance between like even my family, you know.
Yeah.
And now I'm just like, I regret some of that because there are stories I've missed out on, nieces and nephews being born, and just like a whole lot of other things, like even like in becoming educated, the way I speak is different, and I feel like there's a lot of poetry I've lost, and a lot of certain kinds of understandings that were available to me that might not be available to me now.
Yeah.
um, that, you know, when you become more privileged, it's like you kind of poo-poo it for a while, and then you're like, oh wait, no, there was
Yeah.
actually something there, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think there's something to be said about just like, you for sure. I do feel that loss of like the stories, you definitely lose out on like who they became and who they are.
Hmm.
But you got to do what's best for you. So,
Absolutely, yeah.
moving on was the good thing. But I don't know. I kind of backtracking just a little, but there's this word that I don't remember the word is, but it means that every human being is going through their own experiences, just like they're
Yeah.
experiencing the world. And it's like the shitty things that people have done to you in their past was part of their experience as well.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just that they were maliciously attacking you personally, like even just a guy on the bus, he shoves you a little. Like
Yeah.
it may have been a complete accident, he may have tripped. And it's like
Hmm.
so many events can go into a small shitty event that makes like the small shitty event becomes your world. Like
Right.
something terrible can happen to you and suddenly that's not who you are, but it's like all you can think about. It's like clouding your mind. But if you kind of look beyond how just you were affected, if you look beyond like what the universe was doing or like what the other person was doing, you can kind of see maybe why a little, and it doesn't help.
Right.
But I don't know. I think after some time, like you do need time to recover, you need time to process it. But
Yep.
once that time has passed, maybe like forgiveness is the only thing you can have, because if you try to force an apology, you may not get it. And as
Yeah.
terrible as that is, it's like to be able to forgive them is what needs to happen, because like otherwise you're just holding this hate, and to hold that hate is exhausting.
Hmm.
And it's like to forgive just means to let go. And I think it's so important just to not necessarily let go, let them shape you, of course, but
Yeah.
forgive the fact that it happened, forgive the universe for being shitty to you,
Yeah.
because it's not your fault. It's not the person's fault, really. It's the circumstance in which it was brought about.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's like, it is definitely important to know, like, people who are bad for you are bad for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And
You
get
know,
the fuck out. Of
get the fuck out any way you can.
course.
And also, like, that forgiveness bit, like, I think this is the change. This happened very recently. This is why I love talking with you, because you have a lot of this stuff that I'm just now getting now.
Oh,
Like say with like forgiveness, like the way we're taught it. And I had a very short moment of my life, really hardcore in the Baptist church when I was like 9. And
hmm.
it's just like the feeling I got there about forgiveness is it's that, it is your duty to forgive,
Yeah.
and you're just supposed to like be there for these people who have been terrible to you. Or at least
Yeah.
this is the message I've gotten from people who have been in the church. It's like, there's forgiveness and you are obligated to forgive me.
Yeah. Hmm.
um and my whole body is like, what the fuck.
Yeah.
But when you reframe it as forgiveness is a gift you're giving to yourself, it's like,
Yeah.
this is work I have to do for myself so that I can be able to live my fucking life.
Yeah.
That is different. And it's interesting what happens there with the energy too. It's like the energy that you think is going to happen with that obligatory forgiveness that is being demanded. And it doesn't happen that way. It does happen when you give it as a gift to yourself. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, like you said, like, I forgive these things, that these things happened, I accept it. And like, you obviously don't forget it.
Of
um
course.
right, it's like,
Forgive,
oh, I
not
forgive
forget.
you, I'm coming right back and it'll be
Yeah.
fine. And it's not fine. Yeah, that's not okay. But
Mhm.
like, being able to be like, okay, like, I understand these things happen and I kind of have a broader scope of it. Or maybe you don't even. But it's kind of like, this is what it is. I have this line of poetry I've been working with for a long time. Like, what do we do in the wake of a natural disaster? So, like, if we experience a fire or a flood or, a hurricane or tornado or something, it fucking sucks and it's devastating. And sometimes we lose people and we definitely lose homes and belongings and whatever. And it's like, it's terrible, right?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
it causes trauma. It like, um, and often it takes a long time to be able to recuperate from that.
Yeah.
What would happen if we thought of, these interactions with other people we love, strangers on the street, whoever it is? What would happen if we thought of those instances as natural disasters? And I
Yeah.
mean, this has been part of my reframing of a lot of this stuff. It's just like, um it got compounded by like one of my favorite poets, Matthias Sfalina. And in one of his books he has this poem about um knowing his relationship is ending. The character in this piece knows their relationship is ending, and they're essentially holding hands with a fucking tornado, and they're
Oh.
just walking just a little further before having to let that tornado go. And I was
Oh.
like, and I was talking with them, I was like, this really touched me a lot, I've experienced that. And he was like, you have also been the tornado. I'm like, yep.
Yeah. Sure
uh
have.
and so it like compounded that idea for me, which I've been working on since my undergrad. It's like, what do we do in the wake of a natural disaster?
Yeah.
We start over. We pick up
Oh,
the
yeah.
pieces as best as we can, and like whatever it is to like secure ourselves and make ourselves safe and to build, all those things, we do that. And often when it's other people, we let it destroy us forever.
Yeah.
uh, and like we don't necessarily pick up the pieces, and it becomes like this contentious thing all the time. And I know that's really tricky to talk about, but what if we could like reframe that? It's like, this terrible thing that happened to me is a tornado and a cyclone, and yeah, the trauma's in my body, and like, but if you thought of it as a natural disaster, it makes it like easier, I think, to move on.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think it's super important just to remember the volatility, I think that's the word, of people, you know?
Mhm.
It's like we're so just able to snap on a whim, and there's nothing that you can really do to prepare or control for it. Like a tornado,
Right.
like you could not prepare for a tornado in any way other than, secure or whatever. But like,
Right.
yeah, in the end, your house is still being destroyed.
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful way to recontextualize that, because yeah, people are insane sometimes, and honestly maybe it's out of their control as well, but the situation, regardless of why, it still happened. And to be able to hold on to someone even for a few more steps, like you said,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. You're
Right.
still, yeah, you just need to let your relationship truly come to an end on your
Yeah.
terms. Yeah.
Yeah. That's been those have been some big lessons for me, because like, those are the message we get, like, come hell or high water, through thick or thin, like, we gotta stick it out. You're a real
Yeah.
dick to me all the time, you hurt me, and like, it's okay.
No,
Like, but it's not.
it's
um
not okay.
like, are we
Yeah.
growing with each other? Are we able to, like, whatever
Hmm.
it is, whatever relationship structures look um like, I hate I don't I guess I don't hate it, but I kind of do. It's like that whole, like, terminology of like, but is it serving? Like, is it serving us?
Yeah.
That always feels a little weird to me, but there's a lot of truth in that. It's like, everyone is an individual person, and is it kind of, tamping down who they are, and all. I don't know. That's a whole other thing.
No,
I'm not.
yeah.
I'm not a
Mhm.
therapist.
Me neither. I just really like psychology. But yeah, no, I totally get that. It's like in a relationship, you're there to be there for each other. You're there to like
Yeah.
nurture each other. And if you're doing anything other than that, if you're not benefiting each other, then what's the point?
Yeah.
And to recognize that someone's being a dick to you every day, and like you said, like, I'm sticking it out, but you have to ask yourself, is it worth it to stick out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. One of my relationships, you've been witness to some of that, and not a bad person, not at all. It's just
No.
our dynamic together is really wild and unhealthy, and um, that was one of the realizations I had, because I think, there can be such amazing things about people that you want
Yes.
around you all the time. Absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. Like, these things are so amazing. This is what I want. And there are, like, circumstances or trauma or, like, all kinds of other things, that happen, that get in the way, and maybe, spark each other's messiness.
Yeah.
And I remember that was the last conversation I had, is like, we're trying to figure out how to have some kind of friendship or relationship or something with each other. And at some point, it's just like, no, like, it
Yeah.
is not possible where we're at. I don't know if it'll ever be, but I think what we need to do is really be thankful for, you know, the gifts in this,
Yeah.
and just stop. you know like, sometimes that's where it needs to be, and that's like the hardest lesson, because it's just like, there's definitely, like, you know we think that all the people we love need to be around us all the time, and it's
Yeah.
not always possible.
Hmm.
um that is hard.
Yeah.
i,
It's so difficult.
I hate it.
I know. It's not fair. It's like we're so good together, but we're not.
Yeah, we're really not.
Yeah. And like being able to recognize that you're not as good, of course, but it's
Yeah,
also just, I don't know, it's kind of a tragedy? It's like something that was inevitable has to happen, and you guys blowing up had to happen? But you just, I think you have to take solace in the small gifts you were given, like the late
absolutely.
night cuddle sessions or whatever else, like
We're
the highlights.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's
I
what
gotta
made
get
it
you to
worth
talk
it.
some more. This happens every time.
What happens every time?
uh, I don't know. You could be like, what are some of the things you're thinking about doing? Like, I know you love psych you love
Yeah, psychology.
psychology, and
Yeah.
you love politics, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
So I like had my coming to truth moment where I was like, because I was okay. I work at Starbucks. I didn't want to work for Starbucks anymore. So I
Yeah.
applied to a whole bunch of different jobs, right?
Mm-hmm.
But most of them needed a bachelor's degree. And I'm, like I said, really interested in politics. So I
Mm-hmm.
was trying to get into politics, but nothing was panning out because I needed advocacy experience. And low key, advocacy doesn't pay the bills. So I
No, it
couldn't
doesn't.
really do that. And just, I don't know, it was really bleak. And I figured out the best way to do what I want to do is to become a lawyer because I want to help people. In the end, like that's what me going into politics is me wanting to affect change onto people.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna continue working at Starbucks, grab my bachelor's really fast because they provide it for free, and then I'm
Right.
gonna go to law school. And just this shift happened like 2 weeks ago,
I
and
know. I'm like,
honestly,
this is
yeah,
recent.
it's recent and like it's a little scary, not gonna lie, because medical school or law school, like I've always been turned off on the idea of becoming a lawyer simply because of law school. It's
Yeah.
expensive, it's super hard, and just is it worth it in the end? And I mean, like, the answer is yes, but
Yeah.
like, fuck me, dude. Like, am I really doing this? Like, am I really? But it's lucrative. So maybe I'll be balling in 10 years. Which would be lit.
That is if you don't do what I probably would have done, which is a lot of pro bono work and like the advocacy part, because I've thought about law too, and that's why I would get in, is because like you see all the things that are bleeped up with the world, and it's like, how do I fix that? Uh,
Yeah.
you know,
And I see all these problems and they have such simple solutions, but to
mhm.
implement it to so many individuals, no, that's the problem.
Yeah,
And just, I don't know. I want to help people. I want to help fix the world. But what I have to remember, because, okay, as a younger person, I was in all the gifted programs, you know? So they always said, you're going to do great. You're going to be the
yep.
most superstar person ever, you know? But the most superstar person ever doesn't exist, you know? Like these expectations that they put on me, which I then internalize and put on myself, don't exist. I'm not, like, I am unlikely to become president, despite how much everyone told me that I'm gonna be, you know?
Hmm.
And I think coming to terms with the fact that you're not gonna be great is difficult.
Right.
So to find the middle ground, to find the part where you're not great is difficult, but it's also super rewarding because it takes a lot of pressure off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I like that. I like that shift. I know that that's happened for me and like my creative communities, like undergrad mentality is like there's not enough for everybody and some people suck and some people don't, and whatever. Like
Yeah.
that's a really lame way of thinking about things. I try not to use the word lame, by the way, but I just
Lame?
lame.
Why? Why not?
It's ableist.
Is it? How
Lame?
so? Yeah.
Yeah. Lame. Well, lame means uh like having some kind of disability, and
Oh.
it's like a lame person is someone who has a disability. It's old term,
Hmm.
but it's just kind of like probably not
No,
good.
I totally get it. Like, I love learning new things like that because, like, um, yeah, I learned that a term that is a meme that goes around. I don't know if it's appropriate to say here, but it was like a
Oh,
meme. You know, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, that's thing," but it's like transphobic, and people
yeah.
who are actually transitioning hate the word, and it's like I don't know how comfortable I feel using the word anymore, despite me using it a lot before.
Which word?
Trap or
Uh
like
oh,
femboy. Yeah,
and
yeah,
I do think there's some reclamation of that. I just actually saw a
yeah.
video by Evie Oddly last night,
Hey.
called Drag Trap, I think it was.
Oh
And
yeah. Hmm.
yeah, um, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like,
Yeah.
this is cool. So like, yeah, it's really important to think about our words because it's kind of our shorthand we have with each other, and also, especially in these charged times, tells us where we stand on a whole lot of stuff.
I
And
know.
it's
Yeah.
and it's really good to be like, okay, yeah, like this attitude that you have about like I love learning, like how words work, how they've worked, what they mean now, etc. Because language is constantly changing, and
Yeah.
it's really important to acknowledge that, and also to acknowledge like global consciousness.
Yeah.
Like these things are changing, and like yeah, it's not okay to use that anymore, and this is why.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I have to learn the reasons why it's not okay for me to do it. Because if someone says that's a bad word, I'm going to be like,
Why?
screw you. I'm going to use it anyway, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But if they tell me why, I'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm a terrible person, you know? And then I'll try to
yeah,
fix my language. Yeah.
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 That's I mean, I think that's all any of us need. And some people are, going to go hard back the other way in either case, whatever case.
Yeah. They'll be like,
Um,
excuse me, you're trampling on my right to say this word.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, and then then it's just like, I don't want to write people off, but it's just like, cool. Yeah, that's where you're at. Cool. I got stuff to do.
Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're having to say, there is this picture of this like old, the medical doctors back in the day, the French days. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like standing next to a widower, and he's like, he said it was his right to lick rats.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I see.
People who say it's my right to do blank, nah, nah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bubonic plague meme in
Yeah.
comparison with COVID. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's like, it's low key valid. I mean, if
Mhm.
it's your right to do unhealthy things, you're right, it's your right. But if it
Yep.
affects other people, chill out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the whole, yeah, it's really scary. Some people are just like, yeah, I'm trying not to like touch that too much.
Yeah. No, you're totally right.
I'm experiencing some things with like, just like work stuff,
Hmm.
like, being an essential worker and different capacities in my life, and like trying to just be upfront with people so that they can make the decisions they need to make. I haven't really been I haven't been a massage therapist since, safer at home, because I I am a little worried about like riding buses and being an essential worker sometimes, and then also going into like a massage space, with people having different levels of um immunity and stuff like that,
Yeah.
like I'm constant, or people's kids, or etc., and on, like these are things we really need to think about. So I'm talking with people all the time. I'm like, like I've been on the bus a lot this week. I'm feeling a little, I don't know, it could be the fires or it could be something else. I just need you to know what's going on with me. um and so I do wish other people were more like that, like
Yeah.
wear the mask over your nose. Do you
Over the nose.
understand? Do you understand what a nasal passage is?
I know.
Like,
It goes in too, guys. It's not just the
yeah.
mouth.
um, and I don't know. I'm just rambling.
No, yeah, I get it. It's just, I like any surface I touch outside of my home, I'm like, ew, like I need gloves, I need sanitizer, all the things. Yeah. It's just hard, living in a weird pandemic world, because this all could have been avoided. Other countries are doing fine. We're
Yeah,
just, and it's
we're hard-headed.
rude. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's just, it's not fair that we have to do this, but the fact that we do means that we should try.
Yeah,
Yeah. And we have to be okay with trying, I think.
yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to do.
I'm excited for the world, for your work, and for the things that you're doing, and just like, um, you know, like
Yeah.
I really appreciate that you're here and that you have a good head on your shoulders, and
Well, thank you.
yeah. I don't know. Are there things? What else would you like to talk about? I don't even like. What kind of games are you playing right now?
Oh, gosh, I've been obsessed with Overwatch for 3 years and I'm still obsessed with it. But let me tell you, it's garbage. Okay. Like it's bad. But but I still play it every day. I think it's just like habit. You go into something, you just build up a habit over and over again. Yeah, suddenly you're doing the same thing every day for the next 2 years. Yeah.
What are
But
some
it's
what are some things what are some things that you learned from Overwatch? That are there things that you've learned that you can apply, or is it absolute escapism?
I think it's I want to say it's absolute escapism for me personally, but I feel like I've learned a lot about the gaming world because like I don't do online gaming a lot. Like I love to do just independent, campaigny games, but I've definitely learned, I guess, how to build a team well and how to fit with people easier. Like when I was younger, especially before I started playing Overwatch, I didn't talk like at all. I was so shy about everything, and like getting me to talk in a like group chat was petrifying. But now I can. I can be like, hey, they're on your left or they're on your right. Like I'm still terrible at call outs, and I don't know my left from my right, so that doesn't help. But I think I've definitely learned that different people are good at different things,
Yeah.
and to let people like strive at their good things.
Yeah.
Very important.
And
Yeah.
I think we talked about this in the context of working at Starbucks too. Are you a
Mhm.
supervisor yet?
No, I should be. I should be. Listen,
Sorry.
she said that. Okay, so two of our shifts are actually pregnant, so both of them are going to go on maternity leave about
Oh
the same time.
wow.
So I might fill in for one of them while they're gone, which would be super lit because let me tell you, I'm good at it. Yeah,
Yeah, you really are.
yeah.
Like you were saying, even in the game, like I've seen that on the floor, like just knowing what needs to be done and when, and also like really listening to people and being open to a very big breadth of people with all kinds of different personalities
Yeah,
and
totally.
like figuring out how people work together and stuff. I've definitely seen that. And we had talked about a little bit how yeah, you used to be really shy and quiet and stuff, but Starbucks has also helped you learn
Oh
how
my
to
God.
talk to people.
I can now do small talk. I could not do that before. Like, hi, how was your day would be like to little Sahara, insane. I would never ask someone how their day was,
Yeah,
Because, okay, to me personally, conversations are interesting. I don't want to say a burden necessarily, but
yeah,
they're like in my brain. If I can avoid a conversation with anybody, I will. Like I'll just be like, I don't like, I never really liked socializing and
yeah,
talking to people. But I think with Starbucks, I've come to learn that while, yes, this conversation is a burden, it's still a useful burden
yeah.
and an
Oh,
interesting one. Like, that's why, like you said, like I ask all those interesting questions. It's because conversations bore me, especially because I love our coworkers, but they love to talk about themselves. So when you ask a conversation about themselves, they love to just they'll and if I ask like a nuanced question about themselves instead of hi, how was your day, I'll ask hi, do you prefer the night sky or the day? They'll be
yeah.
like, well shit, now I have to think for a second and I want to come back to you. And that's so much better than just and then they just talk and talk and talk, and that's no fun. I want a conversation. I don't want to be talked at, you
Yeah,
know yeah.
I can dig that. That's
Yeah.
definitely a lesson I've learned from you. Um, definitely a light bringer too. Actually, I saw a sticker you gave me. It's around here somewhere. When when we all came back after safer and space. I forget what it's called.
I know,
Pandemic shit.
quarantine.
Yeah, quarantine.
Yeah.
After that, you like gave everyone these really sweet stickers that were really sweet. And I actually did. I found it. It's on my desk somewhere. It's over
Yeah.
here somewhere. And just like, yeah, all the time you would ask me these questions and I'd be like, you know,
Well, you were one of the few who were actually interesting because everyone would give me, oh, A, obviously. And I'm like, why is that obvious? And you'd be like, let me think. And then you'd come back and you'd be like, here's why. And it would be so good.
yeah,
I
most
just,
people aren't interested or
yeah,
aren't that interested. And so it is, it's always surprising. It threw me off a little bit. I'm like, oh, and it also took me out of my head because that for
yeah, you're
me
so into it.
Starbucks is very stressful for a lot of different reasons. And so it would like knock me out of that bull crap and then just be like, whoa, this is like a real question. Like,
Mhm.
who asks real questions? Who are you?
Who are you? You're a spy. Yeah, I totally get it because you're right. Not a lot of people do this. And I wish more people did this because honestly, I would love questions like that asked to me. But I just I literally did it because I was bored and because I would think of these things and I'd be like, I want to know what other people think,
Yeah.
instead of just kind of I want to talk, so I'm going to talk.
Mm-hmm.
People who just talk at me are very irritating to be around, not just because like you're gonna cut me off mid conversation, but also because why do you think I want to know more about your day when you haven't asked
Right.
about mine? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Well, and here's the thing too, and I always try to have this conversation with myself because that is also one of my pet peeves. It's like, oh, you just want to talk about yourself. Great. You know,
yeah,
cool. Right on.
like
Fun for
I'll
me.
listen. Cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, we don't know how to connect with each other. I think that's
Yeah.
what it really comes down to. And I think that ultimately we really want to connect with each other. And so
Yeah.
like often what people have is we have our own stories. It's like, here I am, you know, like this is what I got. And
Yeah.
and there isn't a lot of space for a lot of other stuff. And I think a lot of it is just like we don't know how to
Yeah.
connect with each other. Like you've been very thoughtful about this and done a lot of work and noticed stuff and like, you know,
Yeah.
some of us will get there at some point and some of us won't. But I think
Mm.
there's something called like nonviolent communications, and
Yeah.
I feel like uh like
I
what's
just I knocked over some water, like a lot of it, but it's
um
cool. Um,
so I don't know if this
yeah.
is still in the supervisor manual, and hopefully I don't get in trouble because I actually use it in a lot of my consulting work. Um, but like
Hmm.
latte method from the supervisor handbook.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. Give me just 2 seconds.
Okay.
I'm so sorry, sweetie. What?
Oh, sorry. Try to
Oh,
find.
please.
So latte method. One time I saw it in the Starbucks manual. It was many, many years ago. I don't know if it's still there in the supervisor handbook.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It still is.
and oh, cool. Yeah, it's one of my very favorite things. And it's like a PhD in communications, right?
Is it?
Um,
Yeah.
I feel like it's a PhD in communications because it's listen, acknowledge, thank, take action, and then encourage to return or encourage some kind of action. I think they changed that part. And
Hmm.
I actually apply this to like consulting work and when I remember actual conversations because it also is in alignment with kind of like nonviolent communications where you
Yeah.
put the other person first in a certain way.
Yeah.
You um you you know, you're listening, acknowledging and thanking
Yeah.
before you ever do anything else.
Yeah.
It's like, cool, I hear you and this is what I'm hearing. Is this correct? Kind of thing, you know?
Mhm.
And then going from there.
No, you're so right. Yeah, like you need that. If you just go into a conversation willing to listen, I think you'll make 10 times more of a connection than you would if not.
Yeah.
Because I think what it really comes down to is just social literacy. Like, not a lot of people have talked to a lot of friends. Like, I didn't, but I came out of a different way. Like, one of our coworkers, she loves to just speak about herself and interrupt us while we're speaking about whatever we're speaking about. And
Yeah.
it's because she didn't have a lot of exposure to conversation, like personal conversations when she was younger.
Yeah.
And we can't necessarily blame her for that.
Right.
But I also just think that it's, I guess, to apply it to yourself, it's important to know when you're being listened to versus being heard. You know, like people will hear you, but will they listen to what you're saying? And
Mm-hmm.
when you want someone to listen, I guess what you do is you talk or you say less. The less you say, the more they can think about it, and the more thought that they put into it, the more, critical they're thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just, here is every little part of it, let me tell you, you don't have any nuance, I'm just going to speak.
Right.
Yeah, and it's important to have that distinction for sure.
Right.
Yeah, I feel really bad. My boyfriend's cleaning up my mess.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah, he's being really sweet. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's all his desk. So that's his name, like Michael. That's why it's like that. Yeah, I
I
didn't
know.
mean
I
to.
forgot to ask you to change that. Usually I'm on top of that.
It's okay.
We were
It's my
speaking of
eyes. They're
Michael.
distracting. Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you want to add?
I don't know. Love yourself. That's what I want to add.
Yeah.
Also, yeah. Okay. There's something completely off topic, but I read a quote and it was like, the universe, like you are just the universe expressing itself in physical form.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. That's
That
beautiful,
is beautiful.
right?
I like
I
that.
just, yeah, because like you're just a cumulation. I don't know words. You're just a cumulation. Yeah.
Yeah.
accumulation of,
Yeah.
experiences and things that you have no idea went into the world. You're just that. You're just an experience, and you should experience your life as vividly as you can.
I love that. Thank
Mhm.
you. Yeah. Therefore, all of us are valuable. Like,
Yes.
you know?
We
Yeah.
are the universe, baby. Like, you are your center, and you should continue to be your center. Treat
Yeah.
yourself.
Treat
Yeah.
yourself.
Treat yourself. It's 2020, baby. When else are you gonna have time to?
Right? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and
You're
close
welcome.
this up.
Of course.